Amida Bu Essays by Gansen John Welch Sensei. The Wind of Impermanence by Gansen John Welch Sensei. We know that the cause of an oak tree is an oak tree seed, and that this is a necessary but not sufficient cause or condition. In addition, it requires healthy soil, water and sunlight for the oak seed to grow into an oak tree. Similarly, we must know all the causes and conditions to understand how human beings living on planet Earth at this time have come to be in this perilous predicament. That would require a study of history, politics, sociology, philosophy, religion, economics, and other related and relevant subjects, but this essay will concentrate on how we can attain permanent freedom from not only our present difficulties, but from the all-pervasive suffering of life in samsara. Change and progress are all too often confused. Human beings frequently and naively assume that change, impermanence, transience will always or frequently lead to improvements in human happiness, peace, prosperity, tolerance, wisdom, compassion, and the amelioration of pain and suffering in all its many and varied forms. History and many decades of personal experience proves that the opposite is all too often the reality. We are, to a greater or lesser extent, infected by folly, ignorance, confusion and delusion, the most dangerous and deadly of all infections or viruses. We are all prisoners on death row waiting to die, and unable to escape alive from this prison. This is certain. What is uncertain is precisely when and how we will be executed. If you stand for nothing, you will fall for anything. As Shakyamuni, the Buddha of our age, taught, human beings are subject to the unbreakable chains of 1. Suffering or dissatisfaction, dukkha, 2. Impermanence, anicca, and 3. Non-ego, no soul, or no permanent separate ego, no soul identity, anatta. The most important problem that we must all examine and solve is death and rebirth, because if we do not, we will be subject to endlessly repeated birth, old age, suffering and death in the various realms of samsara. The wind of impermanence is a phrase used by Master Renyo Shonin in his letters Fascicle 1:11 on lightning and morning dew. The full text of this letter is provided at the end of this paragraph. It refers to death, and I find this phrase to be subtle, profound and accurate. Death can surreptitiously sneak up on us like a quiet, very gentle, almost imperceptible breeze, or arrive as a hurricane-force wind, battering us into instant submission and extinction. Quote, on lightning and morning dew. On deep contemplation, we realize that the pleasures of human life last only as long as a flash of lightning or the morning dew, a dream or an illusion. Even if we enjoy a life of pomp and glory and can do as we wish, this is only a matter of some 50 to 100 years. If the wind of impermanence were to come even now and summon us, would we not suffer illness of one kind or another and die? And indeed, at the time of death, no part of either the family or the wealth on which we have depended for so long can accompany us. Thus, all alone we must cross the great river of 3 currents at the end of the mountain path that we take after death. Let us realize then that what we should earnestly aspire to is birth in the Pure Land in the afterlife, that the one we should rely upon is Amida Tathagata, and that the place to which we go after faith is decisively settled is the Pure Land of serene sustenance. These days, however, the priests in this region, who are nimbutsu people, are seriously at variance with the Buddha Dharma. That is, they call followers from whom they receive donations good disciples, and speak of them as people of faith. This is a serious error. Also, the disciples think that if they just bring an abundance of things to the priests, they will be saved by the priest's power, even if their own power is insufficient. This too is an error. And so, between the priests and their followers, there is not a modicum of understanding of our tradition's faith. This is indeed deplorable. Without a doubt, neither priests nor disciples will be born in the land of utmost bliss. They will fall in vain into hell. Even though we lament this, we cannot lament deeply enough. Though we grieve, we should grieve more deeply. From now on, therefore, the priests should seek out those who fully know the details of the great faith of other power. Let their faith be decisively settled. and then teach the essentials of that faith to their disciples. Together they will surely attain the birth that is to come in the Pure Land, which is the most important matter. Respectfully, Bunmai 5, 1473, the middle of the 9th month." End quote. To paraphrase Sir Winston Churchill, never in human history have so many lies been told by so few to so many to cause maximum unnecessary fear, suffering, pain, poverty, stress, suicide and death in the preceding 14 months, as at 9th of May 2021, the date on which this essay was completed. If you keep us safe, you can punish and imprison us. We will trust you and believe your lies. You can tax, terrorize and take away all our freedoms and our ability to choose, and we will obey, attacking, criticizing, demonizing and killing all who disobey and refuse to believe in or accept all the propaganda and indoctrination. Our minds and brains have been infected by this most deadly of all viruses that causes us to surrender to tyranny and give away all our rights, responsibilities and freedoms. Dictatorship, death and incarceration will be the inevitable result. Greedy, genocidal, evil, cruel, demonic, satanic, power-mad psychopaths rule the world. Absolute control over a completely compliant and terrified population, incapable of rational thought, is their sole goal. You can kill truth-tellers, but you cannot kill the truth. A house built on sand cannot stand, and we should rapidly wake up to the harsh reality that a society, culture, country or civilization built on a foundation of lies is doomed to fail, fall and collapse. We live our lives deluged by lies, propaganda and indoctrination that permeate and pervade our existence. This is a brief summary of our situation. We now need, as a matter of the greatest urgency, to turn our attention to the consideration of possible practical and realistic solutions to our severe problems and our dire situation. In examining, understanding and dealing with this problem, I found that the following two works are very helpful: The Essentials of Faith Alone by Saikoku and The Path of Acceptance, Commentary on Tanisho by Reverend Joshua Adrian Celia. Saikoku states, quote, "When persons aspire to free themselves from birth and death and attain enlightenment, there are two routes open to them, the gate of the path of sages and the gate of the Pure Land. The path of sages consists of performing practices and accumulating merit while living in this Saha world, striving to attain enlightenment in this present life." End quote. Regarding the latter path, Joshua quotes Master Shinran Shonin, who states, quote, "On the assertion that one attains enlightenment even while maintaining this bodily existence full of blind passions, this statement is completely absurd." End quote. Saikoku also reinforces Shinran's strong assertion by writing as follows, quote, "Since the world has reached the age of the corrupt Dharma and entered the period of defilement, not even a single person among millions can attain enlightenment in this present life. Hence, those who endeavor in the gate of the path of sages in the present age become weary and withdraw in their attempt to attain enlightenment of becoming Buddha with this present body." End quote. Saikoku provides further clarification of the reasons for the failure of self-power practices by stating that, quote, "Although any spiritual relationship with the Buddhist teaching is admirable, immediate enlightenment seems completely beyond hope. What is longed for remains within the three worlds, and what is hoped for is still life within transmigration. Why should they undertake such practice and cultivate understanding, seeking such a small reward? Truly, it is not the result of the Dharma being too profound and our understanding too shallow, having become so far removed from the great sage Shakyamuni. Truly, is it not the result of the Dharma being too profound and our understanding too shallow, having become so far removed from the great sage Shakyamuni?" Josho's explanation and insights in the passage quoted below are very helpful in fully comprehending this vitally important topic. Quote, "The impure mind consciousness is the source of clinging and so the origin of the sense of ego, as well as of the other illusions which are born from the fact that man takes as real something which is merely apparent. The alaya consciousness is the place where all the actions and experiences in this life and the previous lives generated by the seven consciousnesses are stored as karma, being the only consciousness which comes along with every birth. This consciousness, which contains what I usually call the habitual karma of a person who has been like a drug addict for eons, the bad seeds of our evil karmic tendencies and dependencies, of incalculable lives spent in ignorance, greed, hate, and other blind passions, influences at the same time the workings of the other 7 consciousnesses. It is extremely hard to destroy or to purify this alaya storage from which the seeds of our evil karma can always manifest in the form of various obstacles and hindrances in our practice. Shinran Shonin, being profoundly aware of the overwhelming influence of our illusions, blind passions, and habitual evil karma of the past, states that it is completely absurd for an ordinary person like us, living in this last stage of the Dharma, to think that he can somehow attain Buddhahood through his own power while living in this present body." End quote. Having established beyond any reasonable doubt that the self-power practices of the path of sages are no longer in this age of Dharma decline able to help human beings in samsara to attain enlightenment, it is now time to turn our attention to the other power of Amida Buddha's primal vow, that is, the 18th vow. But first, we need to briefly examine Saikoku's explanation of the Pure Land Gate. Quote, "Second is the gate of the Pure Land, in which, directing the practice of merit of practice in the present life, one aspires to be born in the next life in the Pure Land to fulfill the bodhisattva practices and become a Buddha. This gate meets the needs of people of these latter days. It is truly a marvelous path. But this gate is itself divided into 2, birth through various practices and birth through the nimbutsu." End quote. Saikoku provides further clarification by writing that, quote, "If the various self-power practices are done inadequately, it is impossible to achieve birth. They do not accord with Amida's primal vow. They are not illuminated by the radiance of Amida's grasp." End quote. We will now devote our attention exclusively to birth through the nimbutsu, that is Amida's primal or 18th vow. Saikoku explains that, quote, "Birth through the nimbutsu is to aspire for birth through saying the name of Amida. Because this is in accordance with the Buddha's primal vow, it is called the act of true settlement. Since one is pulled solely by the power of Amida's vow, it is called birth through other power." End quote. Saikoku quotes Bodhisattva Nagarjuna, who states in his commentary on the 10 Bodhisattva stages, quote, "In practicing the Buddha way, there is a path of difficult practice and a path of easy practice. The path of difficult practice is like going overland on foot. The easy path is like receiving a favorable wind upon the sea lanes. The difficult path consists in seeking to attain the stage of non-retrogression within the world of the 5 defilements. The easy path consists of being born in the Pure Land by virtue of simply entrusting oneself to the Buddha." End quote. Saikoku addresses the concerns that some people may have regarding the nimbutsu, or Namo Amida Bu, once only or many times, by writing as follows, quote, "Master Shantao stated that as long as one is alive, one should constantly say the nimbutsu. Are we to say that such people lack trust? To dismiss them with ridicule would be wrong. One utterance actually appears in a passage on the sutra. Not to believe it is not to believe the Buddha's word. Thus, one should believe in the settling of birth with one utterance, and further, continue saying the name without negligence throughout one's life. This is the true meaning of the teaching." End quote. Another critically important subject to be examined is the 3 minds. Saikoku explains that, quote, "In saying the nimbutsu, you should possess the 3 minds. With the simple saying of the name, who cannot obtain the virtue of 1 or 10 utterances? Nevertheless, those who attain birth are exceedingly rare, the reason being that people do not have the 3 minds. The Contemplation Sutra states, the person with the 3 minds will be born without fail in that land. Shantao says in his commentary, if one possesses these 3 minds, one will unfailingly attain birth. If one of these minds is lacking, then birth is not attained. This means that if a person lacks one of the 3 minds, he cannot be born. Although there are many who say the name of Amida in this world, rare are those who actually attain birth. Know that this is because they do not possess the 3 minds." End quote. Saikoku provides further clarification as follows. Quote, concerning these three minds, first is the mind of sincerity. This is the true and real heart and mind. In entering the Buddha path, one must first of all have a sincere mind. If the mind is not sincere, it is impossible to advance. Amida Buddha in the past accomplished the bodhisattva practices and established the Pure Land. In doing this, he awakened the sincere mind. Hence, if you desire to be born in that land, you must also awaken a sincere mind. Second is deep mind, the mind of trust. You should first know the features of the mind of trust. The mind of trust is to have deep faith in people's words without doubting them. There are two aspects concerning this mind of trust. The first is to believe oneself to be a foolish being of defiled karma, subject to birth and death, from incalculable kalpas past, constantly sinking and constantly turning, without any condition that could lead to liberation. The second is to believe deeply and decisively that, since one does not doubt that Amida's 48 vows grasp sentient beings, one rides on the power of that vow and will without fail attain birth. People often say, not that I do not believe in Buddha's vow, but when I reflect on myself, I see that my karmic hindrances have accumulated greatly, and that the appearance of a good heart is rare. My mind is ever distracted, and single-mindedness is impossible to achieve. I am forever negligent, and lack diligence. Although the Buddha's vow is said to be profound, how can the Buddha possibly receive me? Such thoughts appear truly sensible. Arrogance is not aroused, and self-conceit non-existent. Yet there is the crime of doubting the inconceivable power of the Buddha. Does one know what power the Buddha possesses when one says that because of one's karmic evil it is impossible to be saved? Even those wrongdoers who commit the 5 grave offences because of 10 utterances attain birth in an instant. Even more so, those who never go so far as to commit the 5 grave offences and in merit far surpass that of 10 utterances. Third is the mind aspiring to be born in the Pure Land through directing merit. The term is self-explanatory, therefore I need not explain it in detail. It is to turn over the merit of the 3 modes of action of the past and present, and to aspire to be born in the land of bliss. End quote. There is the possibility that the last sentence in the immediately preceding paragraph by Saikaku, quote, it is to turn over the merit of the 3 modes of action of the past and present, and to aspire to be born in the land of bliss, end quote, may be misinterpreted by some as a self-power practice of transferring merit. Therefore, further clarification is provided below. In our Jodo Shinshu school, we interpret the last sentence in the sense that we aspire to birth in the Pure Land by availing ourselves of the infinite merits accumulated by Amida Buddha through his 3 modes of action. In conclusion, let us think and say, with a heart and mind full of humility, gratitude and appreciation, Namo Amida Bu.